Tony, after the Wake game, you brought up your 30-footer against Butler. Could you talk about your memories of Butler over the years?
Yeah, tremendous respect. Coach Collier, Barry Collier, who's the AD now, I can remember, I think the year was 96 or 97, where he came and visited my father at the house, and they just exchanged basketball ideas, and they talked about actually the pillars of the program that my dad kind of had established when he was at Wisconsin Green Bay and Wisconsin, our 5 biblical pillars of humility, passion, unity, servanthood, and thankfulness, and kind of adopted those pillars, and they've used them. I think Coach Stevens, Brad Stevens, is obviously one of the best. They've used those, and certainly that program is a model for so many programs, the respect, how they've played, what they've accomplished in postseason, and just getting to play against. And that was the first game I ever played as a player on, I think, it was on national TV on ESPN. We played Butler, and we're fortunate enough to beat them on a last-second 3. Getting to play in Hinkle Fieldhouse was special. I was obviously watching the movie Hoosiers, all those kinds of things. So terrific. And then you look at what this team has done this year, how well they play, and the best compliment I can give them is you watch Butler, and I said it yesterday, they don't beat themselves. Well coached, of course, experienced team. It seems like that's all we've been playing these last few games, but again, have the utmost respect for what their program stands for, how they've done it, and I know the character of that program and a lot of the things we share. I think some things that are common.
Okay, Davis, can you give your mic to David? And Eric, can you get the other David Teal back on the edge here?
Yeah, I was going to segue off that too. It really seems like quite the coincidence that your dad had profoundly influenced both your coaching career and certainly the Butler program. I mean, when Butler plays Virginia, or are the two teams almost Virginia playing Virginia, Butler playing Butler? It seems like at least in foundational things that the programs are the same.
Yeah, I think certainly there's some similarities in those areas, but obviously some differences. I think their guards are bigger than ours. We haven't gone against too many guards. They have huge guards. That's just the way they play and how effective they are. But I think we try to be a team that plays real sound and real tough basketball. And again, they'll probably run more sets than us. We run a little bit more of our motion at times, but we try to make the game as simple as it can be in terms of get good shots offensively and make the other team work to get contested shots. And the way we go about it is similar in some ways defensively, and then there's little differences. But absolutely, I think we try to recruit the same kind of character guys, and I know they're making a difference. I don't know Coach real well, but I kind of like what I see as far as watching his team play, how he coaches, and respect what he's done in the situation he's been in. But I know they're about character too. So, yes.
It's just one follow-up. How did you guys snare Kyle Guy? That guy's a pretty good player.
Yeah, no, we're fortunate to have Kyle. I think we got on him early, and I think some of the success that we had, it's him watching us in the ACC really helped, and we're excited certainly to have Kyle. He's and I know we fought Butler for him and some other really good programs in Indiana, so thankful that we got Kyle coming.
Let's go to David on the edge here.
Tony, you referenced their backcourt size, specifically Roosevelt Jones. What type of challenges does he present? And yesterday you compared Chivas to Blassingame. Is there anyone that you've played this season to whom you could compare Jones?
I mean, he's really like a power point guard. He's kind of unique. I think he might lead them in rebounding. Both of their perimeter guys do. Gets on the glass, but gets in the lane, makes good decisions, knows who he is. Again, as a coach, we always talk about, do you know who you are as a team? But as a player, he really does. We've played against some big guards, but he's kind of unique, and I think he's one of their keys. They have so many, but you have to do a good job on him, and he's got a lot of experience as well. But you tell me. I'm trying to go through the guys in the ACC. I can't think of any. So.
Okay, let's just go back here, and then we'll get Mike.
Coach Holtman said that he didn't get much sleep last night preparing for you guys. How is it vice versa for you guys? How much time did you spend in on this quick turnaround? Obviously, probably did some pre-scout, but
Yeah.
what's the turnaround period like? How much sleep do you get?
Yeah.
Especially after yesterday with what you were dealing with.
Yeah. No, you watch a lot of film. I mean, you know, like you said, you do the pre-scout stuff. You watch film, and that's why you also have to rely on your principles as a program. You know, the things you do that you've worked on, that you've trained over the course of the season. You're not going to all of a sudden do something completely different. So you have to rely on those, but prepare well with your staff, and then prepare well in your practice. You have an hour or hour and a half out there. You'll have a shoot around tomorrow to be as ready as you can. And playing in the conference tournament, you know, we had to do that 3 days in a row in the ACC, and you know that. It's a challenge, but you work to prepare for things like that. But yeah, no, watching them, absolutely. You're like, boy, you got to deal with this, the size, the way they run their offense, how, you know, sound they are defensively. You're always thinking about that. I think as coaches, you sit in those rooms, and I think if your players could hear your conversations as coaches going, what are we going to do here? You know, they might say, geez, I don't know. You're always trying to figure stuff out. But when it comes to getting ready to prepare for it, you do what you do best, and you have a couple approaches, and then you gotta execute.
Let's stay back over there with Mike.
Anthony Gill told us a story that a coach, when he was younger, accused him of having no motor, and that kind of motivated him. Did you know that story, and how would you describe Anthony's motor at this point?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that story, so I'm glad it wasn't me. So I didn't say that, but he's really. When he got here, I think that's the way he's played on the offensive glass. He's I've said you're like a warrior on the offensive glass. You go to the glass, you play hard, and then we talk about, all right, let's find areas to use that aggressiveness and apply it to your defense. And I think he's worked to become, you know, more aggressive defensively and be continuous, but hard playing, tough-minded, but yet has a, you know, you guys have been around him. I think he has the right perspective on things and enjoys it. But that's key for us. His ability, I think, in a game like this, it's those X-factor things, guys who can get the loose balls, get on the glass, get some offensive rebounds, make some of those plays, and he's done that for us. And, you know, he was really good yesterday. He took advantage of, you know, some of the mismatches that were there and did a terrific job.
Okay, we'll go up front to Doug. Eric, could you go and way in the back there to that gentleman?
You shared some of your interesting or humorous anecdotes from your dad over the years. Did you talk to him after yesterday's game about your experience and also about playing Butler?
Yeah, I just talked to him for a brief minute. My mom was grabbing the phone from him saying, I want to talk to me. But he actually, I've been his assistant, and I've seen him jump up quick and all of a sudden have to put his hand on the floor and, you know, get the almost pass out. So I've seen that happen to him before, so we kind of were chuckling about that. But we didn't talk too much about the game. He was just, I'm doing fine. No, we didn't talk too much about, I mean, I know he certainly has respect, and I'll probably try to give him a call tonight or visit with him tomorrow. But he's, you know, like I said, he doesn't watch many of the games, you know that, but he always gives me a good piece of advice and wisdom for sure.
Going all the way in the back.
Tony, Eric Brady from USA Today. Players never forget their last-second game winners. Can you take us through that shot at Butler, and was it the shot of your life?
Yeah, it was just I can't remember what the score was, but I think the score was tied, and I just was coming down. I remember looking at my dad. You know, I think we had a timeout, and Thad Matta always, every time I see him, he always recounts the story to me. My dad just kind of looked at me and went, go ahead, like, it's on you. So I just dribbled down, and I think I surprised the guy guarding me. I shot it from about 25 or 26 feet. I didn't think he thought I was going to shoot it, and I made it with a couple seconds left. So it was exciting because, again, it was our first game on ESPN. And, you know, it was just, I remember looking at my dad like, you want me to call timeout? And he just gave me like, go ahead, son, let it go. So it was a good memory for sure. But shot of my life, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I've had a few game winners, but that one probably stands out for sure in college.
Davis, can you get a microphone to Kip there on the edge? And Eric, we've got two over here we need to get.
Yeah, Tony, Kip Coons for the Raleigh News and Observer. I'm over here.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Early in the season, it was a priority to replace Darian Atkins' defensive role. What strides have you made where it's clear that you have, because clearly your defense is better now than it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think we had two guys in Justin Anderson and Darian Atkins who were erasers. They could cover a mistake that was made, whether they had a mistake or one of our players did, and block a shot or chase a guy down in transition. The way Darian could blow up ball screens. So I think Isaiah Wilkins has given us a great lift. I think the guys have gotten better positionally and collectively. Anthony Gill, Mike Tobey, Evan Nolte I've been using as the foursome, and we probably don't have as much of that ability, but I think we've just tried to, as we've say, tighten it up a little bit. And at times I think we have improved, and you got to keep working. And again, a team like Butler will test you to see how good you really are, because Darian could almost be in two places at once. You're talking about him specifically, and you need that kind of anticipation against teams that run multiple actions, multiple screens, move the ball, and can score inside and out.
Okay, now we're going to come over, all right, Coach?
Tony, I know it would have been disappointing for you if Evan and Mike had kind of fizzled out at the end of their careers. What does it mean for you as their coach to see them both playing well on this stage at what could be the final games of their careers?
Right. No, real important. They've given so much to the program, and we talk about Malcolm and Anthony a lot, but Evan, and Mike have both had significant impacts, and they're the reason why our program is where it is. I can't tell you how happy I was. We all talked about it, to see Mike have that kind of game in his last game at John Paul Jones Arena, and he's just stayed faithful to it. Evan too. Evan sometimes wasn't playing, but we're about the team and about, to me, being a servant. Those pillars about being really about unity and servanthood, and say, what can I do to help the team? And of course it's frustrating when you're not individually getting, as a last year player, your senior year, the things you want, but they stayed true and their time has come around, and you can just see it in their eyes. And that's why as coaches, when you see that, when they have individual success, that brings me about as much joy as anything. So to see those guys do that, Evan 2 years ago against Coastal Carolina, without him, we probably would have gotten beat, and he really saved us in that first round game or second round game. And so he, but he's had moments this year for sure, and they've stayed patient, and they're really Malcolm Brogdon, all these guys. It's not instant gratification. They've stayed patient. They've stayed patient, and they're enjoying it, and I think they're going to get a lot out of it.
Okay, I'm going to move up one row here to Ave, and then we got to get Ave up front.
Hey, Tony. I'm Zach Helfand from the Los Angeles Times. It's fairly unusual to have a California guy playing at Virginia. How did you discover London Parentes, and what has he meant to the program?
Yeah, well, I coached at Washington State when I was in the Pac-10 at the time. And so we had to recruit all over at Washington State, internationally. And so having coached at Wisconsin as an assistant, been all over, we knew that we just got to find the best players. I really thought Virginia could draw nationally or internationally because of the ACC. Maybe not where our program was at the time, but the ACC would draw, and then what the academic experience could do for them. And, London just... Sometimes you just watch guys, and you hear coaches say they have the it factor. I referred to him as a neck-up player, I think, yesterday. Well, he has that. He has a composure. He has an understanding to the game, a feel for it that I think is real important. And when I was at Washington State, we brought a young man named Taylor Richesti into our program, who was a terrific guard. He had it, and that really just brought everything together. And then our program went to another level. And I think our program has, when we've really had a guy like London who's kind of tied it all together, and he's become more aggressive this year, that's helped us take that next step with the talented guys in place.
There was a Washington State kicker involved in giving you a tip
Yes,
on London.
Nico. He just told us, hey, I watched your teams. There's a scouting service. There's a couple people. A lot of people will take credit for it, but the punter or the kicker there said, I watched you guys play a lot and over my years, and he said, this guy fits what you guys do. And one of my best friends was an assistant at Washington State at the time, and we were both fighting for him because we knew the kind of player that we thought could really help our programs.
Okay, we'll come up front to Ava.
Ava Wallace from the Washington Post. We saw Mariel have another big game last night, and he's kind of done that a couple times over the season. But did you guys know he was going to be that big player off the bench for you at the beginning of the season, or how have you seen him develop? What's maybe the biggest leap he's taken? And then you always talk about depth, but how extra important is that in the tournament?
I think Mariel, in his first year he'd show flashes, and then this year, a little bit up and down, but I thought he had a really nice, he and Devin both, but they showed great flashes and had a nice ACC conference tournament. And Mariel he's hungry to defend, so he gives you that size and athleticism to really play hard defensively on their good perimeter players, so that's huge for us. And then he has the ability, and he's improving it, getting into the lane, making some plays, and knocking down some threes when they're there. So he's just in his second year, so he's just gotten better and better as the season has progressed, and I think that's really good for his future for us. But with his size and length, you need, playing against Butler and the teams you play, you need size on the perimeter in our system and how we play. So that ability, and he really plays hard. He and Isaiah are, they're wired. They really want to defend. You can see that. And so that really, I think, helps us. And then he gives you a little bit of a different dimension offensively. The way he's been getting to the lane and then knocking down some shots to balance it off has helped us.
Okay, Coach, we're going to go to this edge here, and we just got 1, 2, 3 guys.
Tony, the third straight year in the round of 32, how much different are things for you guys as a program and how you go about things at this stage now as opposed to a couple years ago? And how much of that do you think kind of reflects the growth of the program in that span?
I think the experience is important, but I don't know if you change how you go about it. You realize that I think you realize you're more aware that you've got to play at a high level. There is nothing guaranteed, especially in college basketball this year. You're going to have to show up and play well. I think our guys have a belief if we play well, we'll have a chance to advance, but they truly understand if we don't, we won't. And I think that, last year against Michigan State, they outplayed us. We didn't advance. The year before, we played well against Memphis, and we did advance, and I think just that knowledge and knowing that, and I think our guys have done a lot in their 4-year career, especially this group of seniors, and that, I said that before, that won't be taken away, but the piece to try to advance as far as they can in the NCAA tournament would be a great way for them to finish their careers, and that's exciting, and then there's always a chance that it doesn't happen, but I think that there's a hunger for that, and I believe they're focused for it, and I know that would be a great way for them to go out.
We're going to stay on that edge with David.
Tony, you mentioned Evan. Since the Louisville game at JPJ, it seems every shot he takes, it looks like it's going in. He seems to have rediscovered a confidence about him. What triggered it? Was it just getting the ankle better, or?
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten probably a little more consistent time, and sometimes just, you make a couple and then the rim looks a little bigger, and that helps us. That stretches our defense, gives us a different dimension, but that's been significant. And yeah, in the Louisville game, I think he started hitting the first couple of threes, and he's done that at different times in his career, but it's nice to see that and know that he's a threat, and I think the other team has to, account for that.
One more on the edge, and this will be the last question.
Tony, talking to a couple of the players, they said they get this sense sometimes in games, usually in the second half when they've worn down the opponent. What is it about the Virginia system that does that to teams?
I think every team fights for that. I really do. You're playing against a team. You're trying to make it hard on them to get the good shots, as I said, and you're working to get your shots. And it's just a battle of attrition. Who's going to impose whose will on one another. And there's points at times when you sense, okay, we're at that point, and you can just feel it. And that's, as a coach, one of the better feelings you can get. And the better competition you play, the harder that is. But I just think it's trained through practice. It's through experiencing it as players and knowing that it's been validated with these guys. Hey, if we work hard defensively and not give up easy stuff, and then we work to get good looks and have a tough mindset and try not to lose or beat ourselves, as I mentioned, that can have a wearing effect on the opponent, and that's how we've chosen to play. And that's been our best way to succeed. So it's not an easy way. It's a hard way, but it's the best way for us, and that's my job, is to figure out what's the best way for us to be successful.